going on YouTube? Smaldor here, and we are back with a full thoughts and my own review and things like that with Avowed. I played Avowed on PC. I have a pretty beefy computer, so performance stuff is going to be a little wonky when we talk about performance. And I also played on Path of the Damned, which is the hardest difficulty in the game. So any of my viewing is coming from that standpoint. Played on PC, mouse and keyboard, and on the hardest difficulty. So with this review slash thoughts, basically just my thoughts on the game, I'm going to be a little more thorough than in the past. I have done other games along the line that I'm going to do with this one, but for the most part, generally, I just give a quick thoughts. I liked it, didn't like it. I like this, I didn't like this. The end. I'm going to try to go into a little more detail, so it's going to be a little bit of a longer video. I just want to try to get into doing this a little bit more often if I can. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, see what you guys think, that kind of thing. So, everybody already knows what kind of game this is. It is essentially, right, it's been talked to death, compared to death, the controversy to death online. This game's worse than Skyrim and Oblivion. Why do those games can do more things than this game? So, Avowed is not a sandbox. Avowed is a narrative-driven, semi-open world, I'm going to just say first-person action game with some light RPG mechanics. You can play in third person, but it's very clear the game was designed for first person. The third person feels extremely, I don't know. I think it's terrible. If you like third person and you like it in this game, more power to you, but I think first person is the way to go. It feels much, much better than this. The third person does not feel good. So that's what I'm saying. So Skyrim, Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls games, Fallout games, etc. Those games are sandbox games. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or 1. Sandbox games. And sandbox games, generally speaking, the enjoyment in these kind of games comes from the player can do whatever they want. They can do anything. Or, hopefully, whatever the game allows them to do. NPCs generally also have full day-night cycles. They go to bed. They have itineraries, if you will. They wake up at a certain time and they go about their day in the game world. Avowed is not that game. It's not that type of game. Funnily enough, however, I found this out much later. This game has also been kind of through a little bit of a development hell. It started development, 6 years ago? Correct me if I'm wrong. Josh Sawyer had the big interview thing or whatever. But it really didn't start to being what it is right now until 2021. It was originally going to be Obsidian's version of a Skyrim game, but multiplayer. And this is going to lead me into one of two major issues that I do have with Avowed. And that is the static, lifeless NPCs. They're all over the game, obviously throughout the cities, throughout the wilderness, whatever. You're going to come across a lot of NPCs that are not enemies, and they are static. They are lifeless. They have essentially no voice lines. They're just standing there. And there could be groups of them all together. Nothing. Silence. And it's most immersion breaking when you're in the cities. If you're out in the wilderness, there's maybe just 2-3 guys sitting by a campfire. I can kind of excuse a little bit, whatever. You're in a big city. You're in a marketplace. Nothing. You can hear a pin drop. I'm like, this is a little weird, man. What? Come on. People are going to argue also, but you can't steal in the game. Why can't you steal? Why can't you kill everybody? Again, this comes back to the fact that this is not a sandbox game. It is a narrative game. Yes, there's a character creator, but you are extremely limited. You have to be a godlike. you can only be human or elf because they're I believe they are the only two races that can be godlikes. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong. That's true because in this game that proves that that's not true. But you can only be human and elf in this game, and you have to be a godlike. Why? Because that serves the purpose of the narrative. Unlike Skyrim or whatever, those, let's be real, guys. The main story in Skyrim is garbage. That's not why the game's amazing. The game's amazing for all the other reasons of what this type of game, Avowed, is not. Right? Avowed is a very narrative-driven game. It is I'm just going to say it's a continuation, essentially. It's Pillars 2.5. It takes place a few years right after the events of Pillars of Eternity 2, which is, the Pillars 1 and 2 are CRPGs, extremely narrative-focused games, and this is going to be, takes place right after that. There's, so it just happens to be in a first-person setting, instead of playing party, CRPG, isometric top-down, you're in a more 3D environment and things like that. But they could have done more with the NPCs, guys. I understand it was supposed to be a multiplayer game, so that kind of lends itself to that, but it could be a little something. They could at least all have some dialogue. They could have, you come up to an NPC, maybe you can't even interact with them, but they'll just acknowledge you, be like, hey, envoy, something, something, whatever. Or react to maybe certain things you've done in the game. Certain quest lines that you've done, optional things that you've done. Maybe you killed somebody versus somebody else who didn't kill somebody, or you guys get the idea. Following in line with the things that I didn't like about the game, and again, there's not too many, but the other major negative that I have with this game is the lack of customization, but specifically with your companions. With your character, it's not as bad as I initially thought. If you listen to my first thoughts video, my early impressions video, I actually don't think it's as bad. But you cannot put gear on your companions. You can't gear them out. No equipment. And they get 4 abilities. And each of those 4 abilities can have 3 more, unique things to them. But Path of the Damned, I have about 60 plus-ish hours. My playtime says 66. It's probably closer to just maybe 62 or something like that, with a lot of downtime. But I didn't even unlock or get enough skill points for my companions to max out everything. But that's it. 4 abilities for your companions. That's it. What's going on here, Obsidian? Come on, guys. Give me something. At least at the very least, let me give them new weapons. They all use weapons that drop in the game, Okay. All right. Kind of going along that line with my other down the con line. Not as big of a gripe, but the customization with your own character is still a little bit lacking for my taste. You have unique gear, which has... You're going to find a lot of unique items, which is cool. But otherwise, it's just common sword, rare sword, or fine sword, superb sword. There's 5 tiers or whatever, 4 or 5 tiers, and each of those tiers has 3 levels of it, and that's it. It's the same items from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. That goes for all the armor as well. That's to me, that screams lazy, but maybe due to all the, the development issues that they had with the game, they ran out of time. I would have just liked it, even if each of the different areas, it was the same tier, but because you're in a different region, call it something else. Instead of a longsword or whatever, now you have scimitars, or you have a falchion or something. You know what I mean? Different types of axes or hammers. Not just hammer, mace, axe. It felt lazy to me. It reminded me of the Outer Worlds, and that was one of my biggest complaints with the Outer Worlds was The itemization in that game was so bad. At least I thought it was absolutely terrible. And it really made me feel, I don't know. I didn't like it. We'll just leave it at that. Other minor cons, the lip syncing in the game when it comes to mouth movement of the characters is a little, it's hit or miss there. When you're talking in conversations, it does look very Oblivion-esque. NPCs are just little movements, but otherwise they're just like totally static, even in your conversations. That's a little awkward. I don't know. And the last very, very minor thing, it's not really a con so much as just like, why? There's a weight system in the game that completely means nothing. Basically, and the reason why it means nothing is you have an infinite stash, and you can send things to your stash from anywhere in the game at any time. And you can also break down things at any time. And when they're broke down, they have no weight. At least I think they have no weight. I don't know. But you can send things to your stash infinitely, as much as you want. And you can go to your stash whenever you want. That's a little weird. And then there's because there is weight, like a weight capacity, the strength stat, or they call it might in this game, has every single of your attributes has two things that it affects. And might is your raw damage and your carry weight. Carry weight means nothing. There's also lots of items in the game that like increase carry capacity. It doesn't matter, guys. Waste. As soon as you see that on an item, garbage. It's a waste. It's a waste of an item. So that sucks. There's probably some other cons I'm not really thinking about right now, but I want to talk about what I do like about Avowed and what this game does very, very well. So Avowed has, in my opinion, it shines the most in 3 areas. Number 1, the world environments, I think, are chef's kiss, gorgeously beautiful. They look phenomenal. It really immerses you into the world of Aora, and specifically the Living Lands. I think it's fantastic. Absolutely incredible. The entire time that I was playing the game, I was just like, man, this just looks so good. It looks so, so good. This feels awesome. Yes. That kind of ties in with the visuals and everything like that. Number 2, really, this game does extremely well, honestly, is the combat. The combat, while the customization of your character is lacking and quite limited, the combat itself feels good. And that's saying something considering you only get 6 abilities on your hotbar. And I played melee, so your attacks is literally just left click, right click, or whatever. And you have 6 abilities, and that includes using your companion's abilities. But it still felt really, really good. And that says a lot, right? So I'm somebody that I love hit stop in my games when I'm playing a game. It makes it feel that much more impactful for me. I know there's actually people out there, there's gamers out there, it might be you, that hate hit stopping, and you just want your weapon swinging when you hit a monster. It just looks like it's just flying right through them. Personally, I don't like that. It's not a deal breaker in games if that's the case. But when it does exist, when hit stop does exist, yes, love it, love it, love it. I've heard lots of people talk about that the magic is also incredible. I didn't really touch magic at all in the game. That way I can kind of save myself for another playthrough down the road if I'd like to play it again. But yeah. And number 3 that I think this game does exceptionally well, is for people like myself and the other, hundreds, possibly thousands of people out there who absolutely love Pillars of Eternity 1 and Pillars of Eternity 2. This game has an abundance of lore connective tissue from those games to this game. And I'm going to be real, there's actually a lot of things from those games that ties directly into the story of Avowed as well, not just like extra lore tidbit stuff that's like, ooh, yes, 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 yes. No, there's actually like things that really, really matter. And they've said, you know, you don't need to have played the Pillars games to really enjoy Avowed. And that's true. I don't think you do. I think you can just jump right into Avowed and have a great time. But you are going to understand, you're going to appreciate, and really know what's really going on much, much more if you know the story from the first two games and really understand the lore from those games. And this game has a lot of stuff. If you really, you know, if you talk to all the NPCs, you read a lot of the journals, things like that, it's great. And I love it. I absolutely love all of the lore. Give me the lore. Give me the lore. This game does a phenomenal job. And I was worried that they were going to just be really lackluster and maybe not even really mention anything from the first two, you know, I say the first two games, but the other games in this universe. But they did an amazing job with that. So kudos to the writers for that. Now, there's other things also I think the game does really well, but they just might not be quite as shining as those. Is the general exploration. I think this would probably be like the one tier down in terms of what's really good. They reward the player so much by just running around and exploring, going off the beaten path, and be like, ooh, here's a chest here, here's loot here, here's things here, ooh, there's an item here, ooh, we got more goodies over here. The reason why I don't put it quite as high is because it kind of ties into the itemization of the game, and 9 times out of 10, you're just going to find crafting materials to upgrade your common sword to a common sword 2 or whatever, and that's all it's going to be. Or maybe you might find a little bit of money, something like that, you know. But you realize you actually really need those things, so it still feels rewarding to get it. And I really, really enjoy that. And sometimes you do find unique items, and those are extra. Ooh, you know. Other things, also, the companions in this game are phenomenal. You get a total of 4 companions in this game. Spoiler. You get one of them immediately. You get another one pretty early on in the main story, and then the other 2 you get a little bit later. And they're all through the main story, so if you do want to get them, you have to progress the main story. They're all really good. The first companion you get is Garrus. I don't know how he came here. You know, he came from the Citadel and he decided to drop into Paradise and the Living Lands. But hey, no, I'm kidding. It's Kai, voiced by, I think his name is Brennan Keener, the guy who voiced Garrus. It is him. And funnily enough, the companion Kai is essentially Garrus as well. He's very there's a lot of parallels between him and Garrus. It's just the type of companion he is, the character he is. But then you're gonna meet Marius. He grew on me a lot, but I actually think my 2 favorite companions are the other 2, and it's Yatsley and Giada. I think they are the 2 best. My 2 favorite. Yatsley had to grow on me a lot, though. I really did not like her in the beginning. But yeah. Oh yeah, and I can't forget to mention, this game has really good like parkour, like running around, going on rooftops, climbing and jumping and all that kind of stuff. That's a lot of fun. A lot of fun, guys. It felt very Dying Light in that sense, actually. Which is pretty cool, you know, and it allowed you to like reach places and get more hidden loot. So yeah, that's cool. And the exploration can also be rewarded not just by loot, but there's hidden quests. There's, so 95+% of all the quests in the game are marked. NPCs will have a thing above their head. You know, you talk to them, yada yada. There are some NPCs in this game, guys, that you can talk to, but they don't have a thing above their head. So you don't know you can talk to them other than it just says you can talk to them. So you have to actually go and talk to them. And it might trigger something. Just so you know. Okay. So that's cool. I like that. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on Avowed. I'm going to give a quick breakdown on some ratings as well, which is, I don't normally do this. I've done this in the past, but I kind of want to like rate like certain elements of the game. Just give it a rating out of 10. Just to go down the line. I think the combat's a 9 out of 10. Combat's super, super fun. I from the beginning of the game to the very end of the game, I had a blast. Even though I wasn't really doing too much extra, it just felt good. You know, I think the story's a 9 out of 10. But that's including my knowledge of the Pillars games, as well as just somebody who's just a lore nut. So the general story, if I'm trying my best to be objective and just kind of like take away, like pretend I didn't play the other Pillars games and really dive into the lore and all of that kind of stuff. The story is honestly, it's very predictable. I pretty much was able to predict the end of the game extremely early. Let's just say within probably the first 10% of me playing the game, or less even. Kind of already knew what was happening, but I don't think the game was trying to go for any kind of twists and turns or anything like that. But it was pretty generic, I would say, but it was told very well. The voice acting for me, this is like a 7.5 or an 8 maybe. All of the main characters, your companions, any key NPCs, I thought they were all serviceable to very, very good or excellent. But there's a lot of NPCs that are not, you know, these characters. They're just like random guards or whatever, but they will have some lines. I'm gonna admit some of these guys are pretty bad. I think it was very clear they probably just like, hey, yo, Bob, you know, you wanna record a line over here, you know, real quick. You know, I know you're working on, you know, your you know, the proper balancing of these items, but you want to just record some lines real quick? Yeah, sure, boss. You know, it's kind of like what it felt like, because you know, for some of the lines, that's all right, you know, but it definitely is like when you do talk to them, when you're in camp, you're talking to your companions, everything's, you know, it's all really good, and you're like, what? That totally didn't make any sense, but okay, you know. So that kind of happens sometimes. Music in this game, and I'm gonna put sound with it at the same time. The music and the sound design in this game, I think, is phenomenal. There's no like major like big scores in this game, but there is a lot of ambiance sound, and there is music, but it's a lot more just atmospheric. But for the setting, I think it's phenomenal. I think it's great as well. Give that like a 9. So here is where I'm going to talk about ones that are probably, you know, a little bit lower ones. The performance, I'm going to give this an 8. And honestly, it probably should be lower just based on what I've seen from other people. I have a beast computer. I'm running this at 1440. DLSS is on. I have it on quality. I am not using frame gen, and I was getting between 80 to like 100 FPS depending on where I was. If I was in like really tight areas, I was getting like insane FPS, but that doesn't really matter. So like the lowest it would really go is around 70, but still 70 FPS. That's kind of crazy when I'm running Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and I'm getting like 140. So I don't know. And I've heard a lot of other people mention that the performance in this game is not great. But I was fortunate enough, you know, with my rig, I'm able to play over 60 the whole way through on max settings. So, but because of that, because of knowing how other people's are, and just realizing that the FPS is actually kind of low considering what I'm using, yeah, performance probably ain't that great. The systems of the game. This is where I'm going to give my lowest score, because this is going to tie into, obviously, when I was talking about the customization with the companions, your own customization, the itemization, you know, the pointless weight system, all of that. So I'm giving this a 7. And that feels bad. It feels bad. I almost want to give it a 6. This game is not really an RPG. I said that in the beginning of like what this game is. It's a narrative action, first-person action game with light RPG elements. But Pillars of Eternities are super deep, heavy RPGs. So that kind of sucks thinking about it that way. So I don't know. I have to give that, I'm going to make it a 6, is where I'm giving all that kind of stuff, like gameplay, systems, and mechanics from like RPG standpoint, because that kind of sucks. The companions really let me down with that. The class system or lack thereof, the skill tree or skill nodes, it's not even a tree. You know, itemization could be better. But yeah. Anyways, guys, all in all, I'm going to give an Avowed an 8 out of 10. That's my overall. I don't even know if that would be the average of based on what I gave the other scores, but I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 for Avowed. I had a fantastic time overall. I had a fun time. It was really, really fun. You know, if it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea. It's all good, you know. Anyways, guys, like the video if you liked the video. Leave any comments down below if you agree with me, disagree with me, and why. You know, leave your reasons why. Let's have good discussions, not just, you're wrong. Oblivion did it better. No, guys. Come on. Let's talk about the real issues in the game, not ones that don't matter. Or, you know, if you agree with me, you know, let me know. What's your favorite part of the game? You know, what did you like about Avowed? Anyways, guys, yeah. Like, subscribe. I will see you guys in the next review. Peace.